there are so many updates to write down here. First of all, we had explained to our friends about Arthur and tell a few white lies. I do not like being dishonest, but the present-day humanity will not accept the truth about his origins. There could be a small percentage that may believe it, but those are difficult to look for nowadays. The first update had been that Leslie decided to move into Ben's apartment, and Arthur is to stay with me. I have missed Leslie's bonding time with me, but realized that it is for his own well-being and for Ben as a couple, and, like the fairy that he is, Leslie would bring a different light into Ben's life that I cannot fulfill. So, it was necessary to release him as though he had truly been a butterfly. It is ironic in that manner of context. Arthur helped me cope in several ways and had been personal therapist and guardian for me. In return, I had to take him shopping for new clothes to fit into the closet. He preferred suits, ties, bow ties, suspenders, and dress shoes. Modern office wear had been mildly acceptable to him. I was relieved when Maggie hired him to work at our gas station, and I said that he suffered amnesia and a dissociative disorder. She accepted the lie and deemed him to be harmless despite the differences in his outdated vocabulary and mannerisms. It may be strange to many, but I personally find it to be refreshing to my mind and heart. The very last challenge we had to do was to get a new bed that had been larger to accommodate the two of us. Living with Arthur had been not what I expected at all. Leslie had teased me about being a tidy freak, but Arthur accepted my cleaning habits. In fact, he had been supportive when to offer his help with the chores. There are a few eccentricities that I had to adapt towards, such as being on a stable bedtime schedule and pestering me to go to bed after having a study session, not accepting of frozen food or any food that had been prepackaged but would accept the use of birth control. We did enjoy dancing to electro swing music together and bonding over horror movies or historical documentaries. It was nice whenever I did fall asleep with him on the couch and he wrapped me in a blanket. He seemed to have enjoyed the moment as much as I had done, and there were occasional moments where he fell asleep on myself in return, which is fair. And the most ironic concept of all had been that he told me that he is demisexual himself. We understand how we feel in terms of attraction. It simply amazes me on how well we harmonize with each other. The month of November had been dedicated to us adapting to one another as people in our relationships. Leslie and Ben would have the occasional spats, and Arthur and I would intervene as though we were parents to out-controlled children. And there were times where Arthur would be a sweet yet firm paternal figure to Ben. He did mildly tolerate Leslie's childish antics, but today was different. The beginning of December began with the roles being reversed and myself being sick in bed. I had to do the role of being a helpless child with a fever, especially how Maggie ordered me to return home while I attempted to do a work shift. It was embarrassing that as soon as I barely made it home, I plopped face down upon the couch.
"Oh, dearest, are you ill?"
Arthur exclaimed and rushed towards my limp body. Now I know how it feels to be the walking dead," I groaned out and entered into a coughing fit. He turned me over to face him and placed the back of his hand on my forehead with mucus running down my face.
"Oh my, you are burning up with a fever. I presume that Margaret has sent you home."
"Yes, and was stern about it."
"Then I would agree with her that you are to stay home until you overcome this malady. Wait here and I shall prepare a hot bath for you."
I nodded to him while I entered into another round of nearly coughing my lungs out, my head feeling stuffed full of cotton with a mild vertigo. I felt like my body had been spinning and closed my eyes to ease the discomfort. I heard the sound of water rushing in the bathroom and the microwave humming in the kitchen while his footsteps patted the floor with slippers. The next moment had been being lifted into Arthur's arms and being carried into the bathroom. I helped him remove my clothes quickly, and he placed me into the hot herbal water. I could barely detect the scent of peppermint, orange, and lavender. The sensation of the water soothed my aching muscles and burned my nose, but knew that it was needed to help clear my nostrils and trachea. While soaking and inhaling the pleasant fumes, I overheard a phone conversation Arthur had in the living room. It was convenient since he had placed it on speaker mode for me to hear. The conversation went like this.
Lenore is sadly ill and seems to be suffering from a mild form of influenza. Ah, so that's why she's not here. That makes sense. I do happen to know a few recipes that could cure her within 2 days. Good, 'cause I'm trying to get Ben to calm down over here. He's about to file a missing persons report to the police. Oh, there's no need for that. And Lenore could use some holiday cheer at the moment. Sure, we can do that, but something weird has been happening lately. The customers talking about kids with these black eyes or something. They're all pale and have fangs and everything like the vampires. You think it has something to do that we need to look into? Perhaps we should, my effeminate fellow, and that Lenore could give us an oracle's insight when she is well again. I still wish I could help out, like in any way that I could. From what she has told me, that there is a negative side to being an oracle. For example, having to report an unfortunate event. She does not particularly enjoy such forecasts. Oh, well, I don't really blame her for that. I'd feel the same way if I had to do that. Neither would I, my effeminate fellow. However, I do wish for her to teach me this tarot skill she is so improved upon. I bet I could master it before you. Very well. She could school us when this malady seems to have its passing.
It was kind of them being concerned about me, but it was funny and unexpected to hear that I am to be their teacher soon. Also, I've heard about the urban legend about these black-eyed children, but was surprised and a little scared that they could be real and within our area. Then again, how the ordinary things have happened to each of us about 2 months ago. These beings could be no different from that. My head began to slowly clear up, the mucus becoming less thick in my nose. I faced Arthur as he returned to the bathroom. I heard everything, and I will teach you guys. Just promise to get along with each other. You two are rivals and can turn anything into a contest. I said while being amused.
Oh, but it is all in good fun, my dear. What are your thoughts on these children, if I may ask?
He said, sitting upon the closed toilet, which had been across from the bathtub. Very weird, and they would be hard to find, but I do not want to know what happens if a human allows one to enter into their house. I could only wonder if they eat humans or other animals. I said, being apprehensive.
I am very certain that it is nothing we could not handle, my dear.
Thank you for taking care of me so far. I'm still getting used to being fussed over and not being treated like an obligation. I said softly, turning over upon my side to face him completely. Arthur leaned forward to pet my hair and massage my head.
You are very welcome, little songbird. In a sense, I am paying off a karmic debt to you. In your past life, you had done all the nursemaid care for me. In the present one, I am returning it to you.
So we are even?
Not entirely just yet. I am enjoying this payment with loving interest fees.
My face flushed, which seemed to be counterproductive to my fever. He had been amused by my reaction and said,
You continue to be adorable, my dear, even when you are flustered.
I'm glad I can entertain you.
Oh no, my dear. You have no idea how entertaining you could be. How you fuss over, miss, and complain about customers through amusing satire. Your jokes are vulgar, and I cannot stop myself from laughing at them. How you can joke about snakes and feminine hygiene products is impeccable.
I just have a demented imagination.
Oh, I do love your imagination, my dear. The one of the alphabet soup is my favorite.
Sir, I could eat alphabet soup and shout a better argument than that.
That is hilarious.
I began to breathe with a slight more ease, and Arthur drained the bathtub after pulling the stopper out. He was gentle in having me stand up, drying me off with a fluffy black towel and dressing myself in a white satin nightgown. It was something that he selected during our shopping trips. I allowed him to carry me to the living room and be placed upon the couch. From previous moments, I learned that it was better to cooperate with him, or he becomes overly worried despite my strength and independence. And this kind of tender care has helped me heal my heart in ways I had not been aware of before. Not only is it repairing my body, but it is doing so for my mentality. Arthur covered me with a black fleece blanket decorated in stars and kissed me upon the forehead.
Rest here, dear, whilst I make my mother's special soup for you,
he said, and excused himself to the kitchen. I smiled at him and began to relax into the cushions. A few minutes had passed, and I heard a little girl's voice say, "Poor lady's sick. Can I come in?" I traced the voice to the back door and saw the child stand upon the patio. I could assume that she could be 7 or 8 years old. She had been dressed in gray sweatpants, hoodie, and worn-out white sneakers, peering past the glass door with her frizzy blonde hair and fashion braided pigtails. The child seemed normal, but her eyes were solid black. I felt unease from her, as though being in the presence of a predator. "No, no, go away!" I shouted at her. Arthur rushed into the living room and commanded,
Abigail, you do not belong here. Leave at once.
The girl hissed at him, similar to a cobra, showing her serrated teeth, and ran away.
That was the soul of an unwanted child, my dear. I have met her several times whilst I was a spirit.
That's awful. So unlucky kids become monsters?
Yes, sadly they do. And they can be volatile little rascals.
I wish I could help them in some way.
You can do so when you are well again, my dear. Just lay down, the soup is nearly ready.
Arthur returned to the kitchen to finish cooking and came back moments later with the bowl and plate. As embarrassing as it had been, I cooperated and let him spoon-feed me the hot and spicy soup. Being a child again was not so bad, and I would not mind if it was just for a day. These gestures from him showed how much he loved me, and it has given me another reason to not let him out of my grasp in the relationship.